Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, for the ones that are in attendance and also the ones that are joining us virtually. I would like to call this meeting to order, the meeting of January 23rd. And we're going to begin with the approval of our agenda. If I could have a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. To have a second? Seconded by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Our welcome and invitation time will be turned over to Mr. Brian Mitchum.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes. If you all would join me in prayer tonight. Loving and gracious God, thank you for allowing us to use this time this evening to discuss the business of this wonderful school district community. This evening, we would especially ask everyone in our district family for prayers as we discuss the plans for returning to school. Please continue to give us wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength as we continue to deal with so much uncertainty. We give thanks to you for your district leadership, students, parents, teachers, and staff members who have done so much to make Dorchester District 2 such a special place. Be with us tonight as we make decisions for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America.
Okay, we'll begin our meeting tonight with public comments on agenda items. And it looks like we have quite a few. So before I start that, I'd like to just read over the guidelines or some of the guidelines for the public comment procedures. Public comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action or respond to public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must submit a comment card 5 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Comments must be regarding program, policies, or procedures. No specific names are to be used in the comments. Comments regarding an employee or student will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. Okay, we're going to begin with Corey Booher. Is that how I pronounce it?
Over the past few weeks about Duke University, University of North Carolina, Brown, the CDC, even stuff coming out of Sweden and Germany talking about the lack of pediatric transmission in schools. I appreciate you guys and thank you for looking to Florida and the Miami-Dade district, where Biden's appointee for Surgeon General has overseen schools staying open for this entire time with no pediatric transmission of COVID. Thank you for taking a look at the data. I also want to thank you guys for taking into consideration the children that have been impacted, for thinking about the 3 million kids nationwide who haven't even logged into school since March, the children that have been trapped at home with their abusers, and teachers have been unable to report them to CDC. We're seeing that translated into the data right now. If you look at the CDC recent reports on ER hospitalizations and ER admissions in conjunction with child abuse, they've escalated. I want to thank you for considering those that are depressed. The 24% increase in pediatric transmission, in pediatric depression we've seen in our hospitals. The 33% increase in teens we've seen in our hospitals. Clearly this virus is deadly and no one is arguing that. But I thank you guys for looking at the data showing that closing schools does not save lives. And no matter how many times we repeat the phrase, it doesn't make it true. The nation has been open to COVID. We've had 10 months of data for us to look at. And I thank you guys for looking at the data and making a decision based on knowledge and science instead of fear and hyperbole. And I want to thank the teachers too. They are amazing. What they've been asked to do in this task is quite phenomenal. And it's tragic that in the United States of America, a teacher cannot even say how they feel about their job. They can't even say how they feel about being trapped at home, wanting to reach through that screen and help those kids. What they're doing is quite phenomenal, but I want to thank you guys for making decisions based on facts and science and not emotion. And I lost my earring, so I'm going to look for it for a hot second.
Thank you very much.
Someone else finds it, you know where I am. Is that your mask? Oh my gosh, heaven forbid.
Maybe it's on your mask. No?
It might be on the trail that you came in on.
It's okay, it's a team one.
Thank you. Next is Amanda Clinton.
Mr. Pye and members of the board, my name is Amanda Clinton. I've been a parent in DD2 for the past 11 years and a staff member on and off in various positions throughout that time. I returned to work this year based on the plan that you presented this summer. I made a decision about my child's education based on that same plan. I trusted that you were going to follow data, that you were going to do the right thing for all involved. But I'm here to tell you tonight that you've lost my trust as a parent and an employee, and I want you to know why. Racist comments on social media and in this boardroom have no place in this district. And I can't trust that you're going to make the right decisions for everybody involved when we have such a diverse district and you're going to blatantly slander minorities. Number two, you've insinuated that teachers aren't doing their job, that teachers need to be working. That's just complete fallacy, and it's insulting to every one of us that go to work every day. The finger pointing by the board about who's making decisions leaves us all to wonder who's making the decisions. We've asked repeatedly and can't get an answer. On January the 11th, we were told that Mr. Pye's recommendations were the decision. But yet an email that goes out says, no, sorry, this was just a recommendation. We're going to wait on the board to make the decision. So who's doing what? We don't know. We don't know who to believe. So lastly, since the beginning of school, you guys came forth, you presented a plan, and at every turn, you've complained about the plan, you've changed the plan midstream, and we've been flexible as you've asked us to do, parents and teachers alike. So when we went to hybrid, that was great. People hated hybrid. I understand that. Certainly not a fan. But that being said, we made a plan. We said, okay, when it went back into the high level, we were flexible. We all continued to work, even though we didn't go to emergency e-learning like the plan stated. We understood the need for consistency. We understood the importance of having everybody in school. So we've done that. And here we are now when it's over 3 times the high level. And you guys are sending out emails that, hey, we're going back to school on February 2nd. Oh, wait, no, we're not. We don't have a clue what's going on. And to even the fact that it's even being considered and discussed is hurtful and scary when it's over 3 times what the CDC and DHEC recommend for us to be back in school. So I work in a room that is maybe it's the size of a walk-in closet, no windows. I share this space with 2 other adults, and we pull students in this room. It's physically impossible to socially distance. And with the rates higher than we're in the lowest 5 in the country for the outbreak. I find this ridiculous.
Thank you, Ms. Clinton. Crystal Charette.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Crystal Sharap. I'm a parent of a first grader at Reeves Elementary, a Fort Dorchester High School teacher, and member of the Somerville Education Association. At the beginning of the year, I was given all virtual classes. I offered to switch to teach one physical class of Inclusion English because me and my co-teacher love working with our students together. I was willing to do this because the school board approved a plan that would keep us safe and bring us back fully face-to-face only when numbers were low. When the numbers began creeping up, I was willing to stay hybrid because it still provided the social distancing to keep us safe. However, my trust in the district to keep us, teachers, staff, and students safe during this pandemic began to weaken, and after Christmas break, it is nearly non-existent. Myself and others feel betrayed and disregarded by the push to go fully face-to-face when numbers are anything but safe. Betrayed and disregarded because myself and other teachers and families made decisions based on the trust that the original plan would be followed. Yes, there's new data and information, and we know better how to handle things. And while that may be true, it does not change the fact that it is simply not possible to socially distance within our schools, especially at the high schools. Therefore, the full face-to-face should not be even considered until the numbers are low or faculty and staff have been fully vaccinated if desired. Please note that I say fully vaccinated. As DHEC is saying that teachers will not be receiving the first dose until hopefully early spring, and then there's a 21 to 28 day wait time for the second dose depending on the vaccine. There needs to be balance, a compromise between getting children back into schools and keeping everyone safe as possible. I believe the answer is obvious. The hybrid model allowed for social distancing to continue in addition to students getting to be physically in front of their teachers during the week. Once the vaccine has been fully administrated to all staff and faculty who want it, then social distancing is less of a concern, and most teachers will no longer push back on full face-to-face. Please, if you must change the original plan, change it to staying hybrid until low community spread or all staff and faculty who want it are fully vaccinated. By rushing back to full face-to-face when our buildings and overcrowding simply do not allow for social distancing is creating an unnecessary amount of anxiety and life-threatening risk on staff, faculty, students, and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schrapp. Jason Brockhart.
Thank you and good evening. I had some notes, but I'm actually just going to completely work off of the fact that we haven't had a plan to look over, right? So some of these comments might be better served at the end after we've heard what the plan is and what everybody's going to be listening to. So with that, everybody, and I know we have different stories, right? Both sides of the house. Mutual respect needs to go on both sides. So everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own walk of life. You cannot pretend to know what somebody else is living without living in their shoes, right? People have had horrible experiences this year. People have gotten along just famously. Some children are thriving in virtual. Some children cannot wait to get back to school, and they need to have instruction face-to-face, right? There is no one-size-fits-all answer. There is no dual either or. We can't have a choice between A or B. There are many different levels that will suit some, that will not suit others. We need to have choices, not just a choice. And I understand that there's a lot of logistics that goes into this. I understand the numbers, the reviews, the food, the transportation, right? All of it. It's immense. And what works for one school will not necessarily work for another school, right? Classroom sizes. Some teachers work in a classroom that they would describe as the size of a closet. Some teachers have a classroom that is an easy 30 by 40, and you can easily get 20 kids in that classroom and maintain social distancing. But look across the hallway and the other classroom is not the same, right? Look into your neighbor's house, ask how their children are doing, they may not be doing as well as yours. So as this has gone back and forth, it's very complicated, I know, and everybody's tired. The virus isn't tired, right? We are getting there. And only by continuing to work together and work smartly can we get there. Being proactive, vice being reactive, is more beneficial. There are children that do need to be back in school. I absolutely agree. There are teachers that absolutely want to be physically with their children and teach them. So as you look at whatever options are given, it's not too late to revamp something. It's not too late to look at other options. The board has to ask themselves, whatever they decide, is it the best decision given our options for as many families as possible? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Caitlin Hamley.
Hello, thank you for having me. My problem is I have a first grader who is struggling beyond means doing the e-learning that y'all call. It's not working, and neither does the hybrid. These students need to get back to school ASAP. Your time is run up. You're out of time. You need to get these kids back to school. My child has been sat at her desk crying because she can't do the work online. That's not fair. She hates going to school. That is not fair. Children should not have to feel like they hate going to school. So what are you going to do about it? There are many parents that are upset and furious that y'all haven't sent the kids back to school. Charleston County has done it, sent their kids back to school, face-to-face, full-time. Berkeley County's been doing it for forever. Other schools and other districts and other states are doing it. Why can't you guys do it? Time is up.
Thank you, Ms. Hamley. Who? Next is Philip Hall.
Thank you for hearing me tonight. I just want to talk. At the last meeting, when we first started this, we heard we want to hear from doctors and science. Ms. Wimberly brought in, I believe, 4 doctors now. 4 doctors that have come to you all, spent their time and your time, and have said it is safe. Not only safe, but our children need to be back in school. And then there's immediately after, there's excuse after excuse after excuse. We can't do it, or why we can't do it, or why, this hasn't been planned for. It's been brought up that, well, we're by Realtor.com, we're the most prestigious school district. We're losing that if it's not gone. We're losing that fast. Because I know you all are hearing, because we're getting them, so I know you all are getting emails of people saying, I don't want nothing to do with this district. I want out of this district. They're not. A school district should be able to plan. If it's something's not working, then you adjust to it. And that's what Berkeley and Charleston did, and other school districts. They adjusted to the plan, and their kids are back in school and thriving, while ours are falling further and further behind every day. You're going to hear a letter written by our daughter, who is a freshman in high school, and it kills us to see what she and her friends are going through, what you are taking away from them, what they are missing out on, in every level. Our middle schooler today was 3 hours. He had nothing to do for 3 hours while he was on school. They are all missing. Their growth is being stunted continuously the longer that they are out of school. I mean, there was just an article written today. There was another study done about suicide depression, about students K through 12, how much it has risen for suicidal gestures, actual suicide attempts, because they are, again, they're not just academically, but mentally and emotionally, they are being stunted. Their growth is being stopped. And you guys can change that. And I know you want to do it. This is supposed to be school choice month. The only parents and children that have not had a choice in this is the parents that want 5 day face-to-face. We're the only ones that keep getting told, hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on a little while longer. And I'm glad they brought up Florida and other states. You cannot let a group of, again, most teachers want to do the right thing, but you cannot let a group of teachers, whether they're middle school or high school teachers, hold this district hostage anymore by saying, we're not going to go back to school, we're going to walk out. That's happened in other places. Within a week or two, they were back in school because they needed jobs. And if they don't, then they weren't in it for the right reason to begin with. Y'all know our children need to be back in school, and I hope my daughter's letter tonight really opens your eyes and hits your heart, because there's a lot of kids that feel just the way she does. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Jordan Hall?
Thank you all so much for hearing us this evening. I'm going to read a letter our daughter wrote for everyone to hear. She is in 9th grade at Fort Dorchester. And in no way do we have any part in this. She did not want to come in case there was some kind of backlash from a teacher. That's what's happening with our children now, which blew me away. I need to go back to school. I feel like I'm sitting in an insane asylum. Honestly, I'm going crazy, and so are many other kids. We need connection. We need communication. That's not involving talking through a screen for most of the time. I am a 9th grader at Fort Dorchester High School. None of this involving me has any part to do with my parents. I thought since not many kids say something that I should. Now all I hear is how we are still trapped in our homes with no escape route. I need to get out and actually go to school and see people. To be honest, me sitting in my room while listening to a teacher talk is the most boring thing on this planet. I mean, being in school and staring at a teacher is also boring too, but at least we're there. I and many other kids get easily distracted at home, whether that be phones or any other electronic device. Books, if you're into that, cleaning, just something to keep you preoccupied. If we could actually go back to school, we wouldn't have a choice but to listen. We have to pay attention, or we get called out for it. I know the parents would be a lot less stressed with their kids being at school and them being able to actually get things done without their kids asking them a million questions. And that kind of goes with our son being off for 3 hours today. I don't know this 100%, but I do know that some kids, mostly in high school and some in middle school, are cheating online. Think about it. Since everyone is going virtual right now, the best way to get an answer is to look it up, right? So imagine how many kids are doing just this from apps, from their phones, and are just taking a picture and just sending it and getting the exact answer they want. I think that more parents especially should be watching out for this because they could ruin their child's reputation as something they have worked so hard for, and cheating won't get you anywhere. We all know this. My point through all of this is just to bring us back to something other than us being stuck in our rooms. From so many kids to all of you, think about it. Our opinions matter too. That was written by her, and what's fascinating about it is exactly what she's saying. Her friends have literally shown us ways, in a multitude of ways, that they can cheat online. So when testing comes up, I mean, it's done with your iPhone. It's take a picture and it's on there. I mean, it's unbelievably easy. So when testing finally comes up, the amount of children who will be failing tremendously when they're actually in school is scary. But these are just some things to watch out for, and this is coming straight from a 14-year-old. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Okay, next thing on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. Board members, you should have received in your packets the minutes for the called meeting of January the 11th, 2021, and the regular meeting of January 11th. Also a called meeting of January the 20th. I need a motion to approve those minutes, please. Motion made by Ms. Crosby. Do I have a second? Made by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Next on the agenda is the Board Recognition Month. Ms. Pat Rayner.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes, members of the board, Mr. Pye. During the month of January, all of Dorchester District 2 schools join with schools across the nation to celebrate School Board Appreciation Month. The theme of this year's observance is 2021 School Board Strong. What an appropriate theme for this unusual time that we're all experiencing. This highlights the fact that school board members are elected by the people in their communities to serve the children and to make a strong, vibrant school system. In what has been a historical year of challenges school districts have never experienced before, we appreciate more than ever the strong leadership of our school board in serving the children of our community. Governor Henry McMaster has issued a proclamation in appreciation for the public service of school board members across the state, and you see a copy there, and a copy is also posted on our district website. And I think that Governor McMaster, in his proclamation, states it well. The importance of public education in our state and in our community is the foundation upon which the economic, intellectual, and social capital of our state is built. In what has become a school district tradition that began 18 years ago, all of our schools have dedicated a book in your honor. This book will be placed in the media center of all of our schools, and it will have a book plate that we designed that has all of your names on it, and these are the books that schools sent for you all to see. And on your program, on the backside, is a listing of all the books that were selected by their staff to honor you. So your influence will be enjoyed by children for years and years to come. Thank you to the Dorchester District 2 Board of Trustees, Barbara Crosby, Justin Farnsworth, Evan Guthrie, Gail Hughes, Brian Mitchum, Tanya Robinson, and Ashley Wimberly for your advocacy, your leadership, and your commitment to put the welfare of children first in all decisions that you make. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Rayner.
I know I'm not on the agenda right now. I was going to do it in my special time, but it's appropriate to do it right now. But board appreciation is also a time for us, and I try to tell the board this, and not always do they hear me, and not always do I say it right. But I want everyone in this room to know that we always do not agree. We have different philosophies, different ways of doing it. At the end of the day, we're united because we do appreciate each other, and there's a great respect. Their respect for me to try to work with them in a context of sharing with them the information that I know that we have to know to make critical decisions that they may not know because I'm closer to it. At the same time, they have an obligation and a role to share with me the things they're hearing from their constituents and their friends and their families that I may not be hearing because I'm hearing from school people. I'm hearing that perspective, and it's not always, as we've seen tonight, not the same. Even the community is very divided. This has been one god-awful year, is all I can tell you. I've been at this for 51 years, and I can put all the problems I've had for 50 years into this 1 year, and this year still tops it. I've been faced with decisions that, no, I'm sorry the plan is not clear because we've done the best we can, and it's a moving target. It changes. We did a plan that we thought was just wonderful. The problem was none of the numbers changed. There's no low in sight. There's not going to be a low. We might as well accept it, and how are we going to deal with it? We're going on a year that our children have not been in school. We have to change that. It's not right, and we've heard some valid reasons tonight, and I've heard some other reasons that I didn't want to hear. And I appreciate hearing them because those are the things that you, the parents, are hearing. But when you come to fuss with us in 3 minutes or put your side out there, you may not say that I'm hearing the same thing over and over. Not tonight, I didn't. And I appreciate that. Those are the things that really move me, because we are about the children, even though we have to look at our staff. And without our staff, we can't deal with the children. The staff are our frontline people. They're in the trenches. They make it happen. Whether your child was on the internet today, 3 hours they were not, that's a problem somewhere in the school. That's not mine. I hope you will share that with them, because we have to know that this is not happening, because the children are having too much trouble getting on sometimes, getting credit for being on, understanding what they're hearing, but to be not on for 3 whole hours doesn't make sense. And so I've heard those kinds of stories. I deal with them best I can, but I think there's no more powerful voice than the parent to our administrators. Not to say they'll fix it, but they're in the best position to respond, either why they think it's the way it is, or they can deal with their faculty on the concerns they're hearing, and we need to avoid that. If nothing else, if it's not true, the image of it is just as damaging. It might as well be true. So we've got to get away from that image. But I have to say how much I respect the board. We don't always agree. Matter of fact, we've had some real serious disagreements. I can't remember most of them now. But we've also had times that I have felt so appreciated when I should have had my butt chewed out. Instead, I think people gave me credit and just said, he did the best he could. He probably should have done this instead of this, but we don't wish to micromanage, and they don't. Now, sometimes they cross over because they're passionate. They're human beings. How many of you have a spouse that doesn't micromanage? In my house, she runs it. And we've accepted that a long time ago. But no board member wants to do that. But they're called, they have a passion. They ran to serve, and they want to be useful. They don't want to just be a figurehead sitting up here. But it's awesome when you hear the stories that you have. I connect to all of you on both sides. If there's ever a person that's been right up the middle, you're looking at him. I support our staff dearly, and I've done everything I can to protect them. But at the same time, I love the children. And I'm really upset about the things I'm hearing about their needing to see psychiatrists, their problems. It's touching. So with that said, tonight, you'll be hearing some plans that we have. We have to move on. Are we ready to move on? No. But is it time, as the parent said? It's time to move on. So we have to do that. I need the support of the board. It may not be done the way each person up here thinks. It may not be fast enough. Some of you out there are going to say, well, that's real nice. We're going to do this, but why aren't we doing it tomorrow? Why are we waiting 2 weeks? I know I'm going to hit an empty target the whole time. All people are going to be upset, real upset. I can't tell you the emails that I've received this afternoon for the first time, that it's now out there that if we have hundreds of children leaving the virtual academy, why would we think of moving the teacher? Well, we talked half of those teachers into going to virtual. And some of them want to come back. And we have to bring them back. We're bringing the children back in already crowded classrooms. The teacher goes with the students. Every 25 kids that come back to schools, or every 22, a teacher will be moved with them. And at some point or another, it'll work itself out as it did the first time. But we're working on that, and that's what takes us time with the scheduling, because we had 2,500 so children or students that asked to be moved during this last third time that we kind of kept the thing going twice and the deadline moved. So 2,500 people did choose to do it. Of those, there were about 600, 700 more wanting to come back face to face. Now that they've heard we're seriously looking at it, and it's a possibility. And so I know many others, as people expressed, are disappointed because we had a plan in July. That was a wonderful plan. Over 100 people, community members, students, teachers, parents, everybody worked on it. It was the best we could come up with, but we were dealing with unknowns. We really did not know what we're dealing with. We made a couple of changes along the way. At first, we had resistance. Why are you doing this? Then I started hearing in the grocery stores and other places, that's a wonderful thing, like in elementary. At least my child is getting to see a face. I'm so glad you at least brought them in for the time to see them each day, and the teachers are not spending 6 hours totally online with the kids. Our first grader can't handle that. So I felt that we did make the right decision for the right reason. E-learning was intended to be just that, emergency learning. And of course, this whole thing's been an emergency, so I guess we could have been in it the whole time. I'm not happy with the results of what I think kids are learning, the concerns I'm hearing from parents, and I'm talking about from the homes, a lack of supervision, a lack of structure, parents who are being made to help their children that do not have the skills to help them. I know all that is true. I've heard enough stories. I am convinced. But then I really worry about our staff, whether they quit or not. I'm past that. I'm worried about them getting sick and having to take all these days off, and we have dozens of classes with no teacher. Do I then have to close down those classes to make everybody quarantine while the teacher gets well again? And that's hoping she gets well. Those are the issues we face with the buses. We brought them in on the hybrid. We got to see how they did back and forth. We can make the adjustments. So bringing them back cold turkey, which we've talked about, there is no transition time to see how many people in the last month have decided to quit bringing their children, how many now depend on the bus, and we'll be past the state mandate. It's a mandate. It's a law. We cannot exceed 67%. And the only way we can figure that is to move the kids physically. They have to be moved in power school. I'm not getting technical, but that's our way of keeping up with children, and Columbia needs to know where the kids are and for what reason. Then they're put into the Edgelog routing system, and that's how we began to make our adjustments to routes to see how many we have. So the best thing is to see how many came in the morning from whatever neighborhood, and how many come in on the afternoon, and if it adds up to a bus that's capacity is 67% is 42, then we need to be under 42. Now, I haven't figured out what I'm going to do when we do a bus with 40, and then 2 weeks later it goes to 45. We'll deal with that at that time. But right now, those are some of the issues. Food service, we've talked about that. We want hot meals served again. I don't want this other stuff. And it takes a little bit of time to get that in, but I don't want to make any decision around them. I've talked to the higher-ups in the food service. They'll do what I say. They work for me, and they said, if you tell us what you want, just give us 2 or 3 days' notice. So I'm not as worried about them, even though I want to be kind and respectful. But I am worried about transportation isn't a real issue because it's an unknown for us. And even if we do a survey, people, they'll answer it one way and do the other the next day, and we can't tell them you can't do that. Now, we'll be sending out information once the dates are out, and we hope that that'll be tomorrow after the night. And hopefully I can ask people to please continue bringing students. Now, we heard from the medical folks, not carpooling. And I once pushed carpooling, but now that I've heard that story, I'm not going to be pushing that word. I'm just going to say, how many of you can continue to get your students here to allow us to be able to make that quota that is a moving target for us. So we're, like for elementary, we use every single bus we have, and we have exactly, close to being the exact number that we need to run the elementary routes. So if anybody's absent and they get COVID too, then we're down 10 and 12 with no substitute. Then we have to run double and triple routes. And our system being based on a 3-route system, it throws the other 2 way off. And, that causes problems in homes where parents have left children thinking the bus is going to pick them up in 10 minutes. They find out 2 hours later the child's still waiting on the side of the road. That's not good. So I could write a book on all this, and these are things that we discuss with board members, and I don't expect them to know all that on a daily basis, but hopefully, they do, and they always come around. They respect it. I didn't like it, may not appreciate it. How can they do this in Berkeley? How can they do Charleston? I've been hearing that. I'm going to Berkeley schools this week and Charleston and anywhere else. I've got visits set up everywhere. I'm going firsthand to see how many's in the room. If they got a class that's got 30 and I'm seeing 20 in there, where's the other 10? What did you do with them? How are you handling this? I need to see it firsthand. The principals that we'll be visiting, we have relationships with them. They gonna let me see it all because I promise I'm not coming back to trash other districts and what they're doing. I just want to see what we can possibly do that we've not thought of. The same thing with the advice that we receive from the medical folks, our Back to Business program. We have those 4 schools that have been visited. I'm not to get the report till later this week or first of next week. I need that information to see how are we. I feel real strong in elementary, but I need to know what kind of job have we done at middle and high, and what can still be done to help make up for the large numbers of kids there. If we can't find other ways, how do we get them in there? Because we need to get them in there. So I know you've heard all these things from time to time, but I'm reminding that of our board that they've received a lot of pressure, a lot of ugly emails from emotional people who I get upset too until I think my wife is good for me, because she reminds me, these people have a story. They're really not aggravated with you. They're aggravated with a situation that affects them greatly, and they think you might have the key, and they want you to use any persuasion you have to do that. They're counting on you. The sad thing is that email said that. Let me show you the other 10 I got this morning that said, don't dare do it. And you hear that in here. And all the sides are correct in what they're saying. There is no right answer, and there really isn't a wrong answer except not to do anything. And we've been trying. Lord knows I've tried it all. But I'm still open to suggestions. But I am enthusiastic that we have to move on. I'm willing to tell you it is something that has greatly bothered me. I'm concerned about the safety of our staff and all. But they're adults. I have to trust they will do the best. They'll help us to the protocol. But I can't give an education back to people next year and the year after. I have to give it to them now. And I've already planned to use the money that we have on anything that this Back to Basics tells us we need to do. They want me to buy ventilators or whatever they want for every classroom. That's probably the wrong word. But I'll do whatever they say. We have $18 million, and I'm going to spend it on my children. So the $18 million will go for any more precautionary things we need. I want to look at afternoon school, Saturday school, summer school, free bus delivery, not for no 2-week play period, serious back to basic learning, and I'm do the whole summer. You either get on board, we might do mini sessions, we might do full sessions, so different people with different schedules can do it, but I've got to help make up the loss of time. Now again, will I have staff willing to do that? I'm working on some incentives that if teachers do leave for whatever reason, that I can use present staff to their fullest ability. I'm willing to move people that are certified into the area they need to be in. I have that list. I have the power of persuasion. I will persuade on the sake of children. And it's our district's reputation that we are going to do the right thing for kids. And right now, the right thing is screaming, how can you get a better quality of education? We've done the best we could. Our teachers have done an awesome job. They've knocked themselves out. All of us have, to the point that I've been angry at some of the folks up here. Till I stop and think. They're as passionate about that as I once was about whatever decision I made. And what's happening is they are saying exactly what I know, and I can't handle it. Because it reminds me that maybe we didn't do the right course. I know I did for the time and the right reason. What I'm not hearing is that's fine, nobody's blaming you on that, but now we have a chance we're at the crossroads where we're going. And they're willing to lift up their arms and their hands, and they're willing to help me, and they're willing to work with me and meet me halfway, and that's all I can ask for. And the staff is already that way. I spent all day with my principals. I talked to every principal individually today and got their feedback. That's awesome. That doesn't happen in other districts. Do I let my principals run the show? No, but they have the input because they're the ones got to fix this. I can't deal with the 30 kids in the class. They're the ones who have the 30 kids. They're the ones that are going to have to answer to this. And when that study comes back about what's missing in those schools, every school's going to be held to that. We're going to have a committee go around, and every school will have what they recommended to those 4 schools. And they're looking, we did not look at elementary because we felt it was very strong, but I'm thinking seriously of adding that just to prove the point that I think we're well covered there. But I'm still a little worried about middle and high because the numbers, only the numbers. I think the staff is where they need to be mentally. I heard today this is what everybody would like because they're concerned, but we're team players. We're going to do the right thing. So they're standing tall. We're with you, Mr. Pye. So the board, I hope, is with me. You have been in the past. You've all done that. I have a good relationship with every one of you outside this boardroom. Some of you might decide which board member gives Mr. Pye the biggest fits. That could be a person that I have great respect for, because I know what they're going to react to, how they react, and they're not all wrong. Maybe it's how they're doing it I don't like, maybe you don't like, but their heart's in the right place. And I have to listen to all the board members, and I try to do it fairly. I don't want to pick one over the other, and sometimes all 7 are on the same place. That makes it very difficult. But I have a great team, and they're a great team, and we together make up Team Dorchester. Between all of us, we got it covered. We just need to get on with it. And I'll be sharing that with you in the next time period. But thank y'all for all you do. I appreciate you being on the board. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you putting children first in all your decisions. That's wonderful. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Pye. Next thing on our agenda is under new business. I have the appointment of the board secretary, and normally we do that at the election of the chairman. I chose to wait and do that at this board meeting. So at this time, I would like to ask our past secretary of the board, Mr. Justin Farnsworth, if he would do us the honor of continuing as our board secretary.
I would love to. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. Okay, next on the agenda is also a discussion about the Dorchester County cap. I'd just like to begin by saying today, actually about a week ago, Dorchester 4 had called and asked for a meeting with the chairman, the vice chair, and the superintendent, and they were also bringing their chairman, vice chair, and superintendent. And they wanted to just sit down and just have a conversation about the cap, the 15% cap that we have on our funding, and ask if we would be interested. They had spoken with a couple of legislators, parts of our delegation, and they thought it would be a great idea if they could have a meeting with us and see where we were on it, and how we felt about the situation, and if we were interested in pursuing possibly getting rid of that 15% cap. I think Ms. Meunier, she's probably back there jumping up and down, makes things a whole lot easier if we can get rid of that. We've just now, as everybody knows, we've just now reached that cap. It's taken us a lot of years to get there, but now that we've reached that cap, we need something done about it. Dorchester 4 has been there for a while, and they've been trying to get rid of it, but have not been successful. So they're hoping that with us joining forces with them and going to our delegation, that the possibilities are a lot greater that we can do that. So saying all of that, Dorchester 4 is writing a letter, and they are sending it to the complete delegation and asking them to consider getting rid of that cap, because Dorchester County, out of 85 districts in South Carolina, are the only 2 districts, 2 and 4, the only 2 districts that has a cap. So just very unfair, and so I would like to ask if you as board members would give Mr. Pye, myself, and Ms. Robinson the authority to draft a letter to send to our legislative delegation. And of course, before that going out, we would make sure that you got a copy of it to look at it, make sure there was nothing on there that you wanted to add or take off or whatever. But we would ultimately like to have that out by the end of the week, as one of our delegates asked that we get it to him sooner than later, because they're now developing the schedule and he wants to make sure it gets on the schedule. So if I could ask that, I guess we'll need to vote on that. So I'll need, I guess, a motion to give us that authority to do that. Motion made by Mr. Mitchum. Is there a second? Second made by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion on it?
Just quickly, just to catch some folks up at home. So that's a cap on our fund balance, and Ms. Hughes is absolutely correct that we're the only county in the state that has that cap of 15% on our fund balance. It was put in years and years ago. Everybody in the district kind of scratches our head why we've got that cap in place. If you think about it, your own personal savings account, it would be like the government or some other entity saying you can only have X amount in your savings account. It's kind of silly and outdated and ridiculous. So we kind of scratch our heads with the same thing. We've been fighting for that for years, so I'm glad to see some movement on it. The only thing I can think of to make sure of, and I know you guys had those discussions with them, I think we just need to be very careful that there's no quote-unquote strings attached or other pieces that the delegation is looking to shift, to change with potentially removing that cap. That would be my only caution, but other than that, yeah, we've got to get rid of that.
Yeah, actually, and I agree with you, Mr. Farnsworth. Actually, this is simply just to give them the information that they need and let them know, make them aware of the fact that our 15% cap that we have is actually supposed to sustain us if we have an issue. Well, if we have an issue, if we have a school burned down, and this analogy was brought to us today, and it makes perfect sense, it makes it easy to understand. If we have a school that catches on fire and we have to take care of that school, we have to decide, are we going to pay salaries next month or are we going to take care of that school? Because we do not have enough money in there to handle any types of emergencies of that sort. It's not enough money because we have such a large school district. So, and even without an emergency like that, the amount of money that we're able to keep in that cap only equates to about 6 weeks of salaries. So, but anyway, and that's kind of the detail we're going to give them, and hopefully we're opening this dialogue and they will come back to us and say, if there is strings attached, they'll come back and they'll say, okay, well, we'll do this if, and then we'll see if we can leave it that. We're hoping to open the dialogue with them so that we can get in and get them talking to us so that not only this, maybe some other things we can get taken care of too. So, but anyway, any other discussion?
I just want to say it was really nice to meet the superintendent in D4 and just to be working together with the district that's so close to us. And even though they're a small district, I think it's more powerful that that letter goes out when our letter goes out. So I appreciated them reaching out to us.
Yes. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the superintendent's report, state of the district.
Is that when you want me to do the plan?
No, it's down on the bottom.
Let me wait to do that, then. I think I did more than my share on that. They've heard enough of me tonight, but thank you. I'll pass on that and save my energy for later in the meeting.
We don't want you to run out of steam.
At my age, it could happen at any moment.
Okay, the next under the superintendent's report is the finance report. Ms. Meunier.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Mr. Pye. The financial information we're presenting to you is through November 30th of 2020. We have some comparisons between 2020 and 2019. Some of those items are kind of big. I wanted to point those out, what those comparisons are. As you'll see in your balance sheet, which is the first report, our assets are a little bit higher this year in November as of last year. And that's because this year y'all voted to join in the tax anticipation note program. We haven't done that in many, many, many years, not since I've been here. Because one thing that we have been able to do is make it through until December or January when we do, receive our first tax payments from the county. Well, this year we weren't sure how things were going to go with those tax payments or with money from the state. So we borrowed $18 million to help us through because we are limited, as Ms. Hughes said, at that 15%, and Mr. Farnsworth said, which is only 2 months worth of expenditures. GFOA recommends 3 months worth, so we didn't know if we were going to make it or not, so we got a little bit of extra money. So that's why you'll see that we have extra cash in our investment account on your balance sheet. The next page is our revenues and expenditures on the operating fund. And we did receive our first real estate payments in January, as we did last year. But you will see that we have a difference in our state revenues as of November this year versus last year. So while we haven't heard that we were going to get any cuts, it was just a timing issue from Columbia this year in the revenues. As you go down our expenditures, you can see where we have some savings this year versus last year. The first section is our instructional, where we show for teachers, substitutes, supplies for the schools, and that amount is showing a savings. Almost $700,000 of that is just in substitute teachers that we have not had to have this year versus last year. I do want to point out that in business services, something that we don't really see an increase in every year is unemployment claims this year over last year. We had a lot of employees who left. We are going through the process of determining whether or not they should receive unemployment from the school district. But in the meantime, we had to pay that entire bill. So that is a difference there of an increase. But our overall decrease was $3 million. The next report is our fund balance report. And on our balance sheet here, we're looking really good. We look like we have a good fund balance of $455,000, whereas in the prior year, we had $1 million in the negative, which we took care of at the end of the year before we went to our new service provider of Sodexo. So again, on the next page of our revenues and expenditures, we did have a timing difference of our revenues receiving from the state, but we also had a timing difference of the amount to pay to Sodexo. So when you get down to the bottom line, our 455 is really almost zero. We're almost at a break even with them, which is a lot better than being $1 million in the hole, so we're still okay. The next set of reports that you have in your packet are the school activity fund balances. And this just gives you a listing of the schools with their general and operating school accounts, and then their trust accounts, which is clubs and such. There weren't any crazy numbers on here or any unusual activity, but I just wanted to show you what their balances were. A lot of folks, or a lot of schools are not able to do much this year, so they have a lot of carryover from the prior year, so they have some higher numbers. And those were all of the reports that I had for you tonight.
Make a motion to accept the financial reports as presented.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the financial reports as information. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you very much. And next up is the facilities and construction report. Mr. Souls.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Pye. I want to draw your attention to one of the projects that's been going on for a while at Somerville High School, the fire alarm replacement over there. We are on the cusp of wrapping that up. We've been in touch with OSF, and we're going to do an above-ceiling inspection during the spring break. We have to do these fire alarm inspections when absolutely no one's in the building, because if we have anybody there, the OSF inspector makes us go through quite a few hoops to get that accomplished, so it's easier to do when nobody's there. So we hope to have that wrapped up either spring break or the very first part of the summer if we had to have any kind of re-inspection. On the new middle school, we have had some very quick progress going on there. The construction documents have been thoroughly reviewed, and I think they were uploaded to OSF portal today by our design firm, and a building permit is pending. So we can get started on that. Hopefully we can get shovels in the dirt sometime in February. The district office renovation, there's varying levels of progress on each wing. Some wings are ready to paint and put doors up. Other wings are a little bit behind the curve because there are some unknown circumstances that we had to fight through to get to the point where we are today. But I think we're at a point where we don't have to worry about those. I hope this is wood. So we can get through onto the end. The roof over the elevator shaft is now dried in. The glazing is nearing completion. You see all the windows on the building now when you drive by. All of the storm drains, the water, sewer, roof drain installation, all that site work is complete. So we are in the final phases, I hope, to getting into that building here within the next probably 4, 5, 6 months. Hopefully we're putting furniture in there the first part of the summer and getting everybody moved. That's our hopes and dreams. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Souls?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda is the personnel report. Board members, in your package, you should have had the resignations and recommendations for 2020 to 2021. Does anybody have a problem with doing those in open session? Okay, I need a motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Wimberly. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Okay, other business and correspondence, board committee assignments. I sent out a text message to everyone asking about our board committee assignments and what committees that you would like to serve on, which committees you had an interest in, and I heard back from almost everyone, so I tried to draft something up. So if you would, if there's a problem with one of these, let me know, and we can make some adjustments if we need to. But policy committee, Ms. Crosby, would you please chair that committee for me? Okay, Mr. Guthrie, would you also join Ms. Crosby on that committee? The legislative committee, Ms. Robinson, would you chair that committee for me? And Ms. Wimberly, would you join her on that committee? Thank you. The facilities committee, Mr. Farnsworth, would you please chair that committee? And Mr. Guthrie, would you join him on that committee? The safety committee, what we did before is the board chair chaired that committee, so I would be happy to chair that committee as well if Ms. Robinson would join me. Okay, the budget and finance committee, Mr. Mitchum, would you chair that committee for me? And Mr. Farnsworth, would you join him? Thank y'all very much, and like I said, if there's a problem with any of those assignments, if you just let me know or whatever, and if we need to, we can, if we can work something out, we can make those adjustments. Thank you. Next is unfinished business, and this is the update from the January 20th board workshop. And I'm going to start off just by talking about the workshop a little bit, and we actually had a workshop, and I don't know how many of you were able to join us for the workshop last week. We had some medical professionals that came in and spoke with us and gave us very good information. We had district people that were here that gave us district-specific information. We looked at all of that in an effort to look at our plan and see how well our plan fit into what we're dealing with at this point. That being said, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that tonight, board members, the responsibility of the board is to basically, Mr. Pye is going to bring a suggestion of an amendment of the plan. It's our responsibility to vote on that amendment, to change that plan if need be, if that's how he sees that it should happen, according to what he feels that the district is in need of at this time. That plan was actually developed in July of last year. And as he spoke earlier, there's lots of things that have changed and more data that's come in. We know more about this virus, and we've got companies coming in and checking out our schools to see what we need to do to make our schools safe. So all of these things that we're reaching out to is all going to go hand in hand with this plan adjustment. But one thing I want to make sure that everybody knows is that we as a school board, and Mr. Pye kind of briefly mentioned this, we do not and we will not attempt to micromanage Mr. Pye with his decisions for anything as far as what goes on directly with the schools. And that means when the schools go back, when they go back face-to-face, or if they stay on hybrid or whatever, that is ultimately Mr. Pye's responsibility. For the people who were confused as to whose responsibility was what, that is actually the district's responsibility. The direct operations of the school district lies in Mr. Pye and his staff's hands. The board actually only approves the plan in which gives him the guidelines of the direction that he needs to head. It's his job then to go through and put this plan in place and make it work, just as if we were creating a policy. We set the policy, and it's his job to make those policies, enforce those policies within the district. So that being said, if you have any concerns about when we're going back or whatever, please go through your principals, address your principals, talk with your principals. If there's a need, your principals can work with you. Special arrangements to be made. They've been doing it all year. Talk with your principals, work through your principals, and if need be, Mr. Pye is available. He said that tonight. Mr. Pye is available. His staff is available to help you in any way they can. So I am going to, at this point, turn it over to Mr. Pye, and he is going to make his recommendation for the plan.
We'll see if it goes that easy, but it's intended to be short and sweet, and it's been well thought out. Like I said, I can't tell you the hours that's led up to this, counting the workshop, many hours before, individual conversations with people at MUSC. We had the agreement before they came, actually did this because we saw the need of that. We've been listening to all the studies, and again, thank you. I thank everybody's for sending me these studies, but there's a study on everything, and different people have sent me different ones not saying the same thing necessarily, but what we're hearing from the pediatricians are pretty solid all over the country. No matter who sent it to me, for whatever reason, it's what it is, and so we have to look at that. The big concern in all of this has been from day one, what is best for children? And this was a scary thing in July. We worried about the safety of our kids. Those studies weren't complete then. They weren't even there. We had mass hysteria going on. Our governor, out of the clear blue, just called school off. Our children went home that afternoon leading books and things. Teachers had their pets in the classroom, class pets, and their other things, and they just were told, leave the building and can't come back. Then we were told to do e-learning with these packets. We were not allowed to expose people to the packets. Well, how are we going to get them, and how are we going to touch them to see what they're doing? The packets were supposed to be no new learning, none. That's a hard pill to tell people. You send work home, but let's don't work anybody too much. Well, it sends a bad message because all of a sudden everybody's free, and a lot of kids are unattended, and then we're getting this message that maybe we're not counting. We didn't tell the kids this, but they were beginning to figure it out. When due dates came and they didn't have their stuff ready, so what's going to happen? Big things have changed since then. It's nowhere near that now. We learned valuable lessons. We didn't have the technology in place either. And then as we were beginning to bring it on early, we had numerous problems with bandwidth and a need for hotspots and kids. A lot of the things we went to the home 3 times to change out a new computer. We actually finally figured it out. Somebody's manipulating this computer. If the child was over 6, he was capable of doing it. And we caught him at all ages, red-handed. Right in front of us, they changed it. And we saw the screen change and the technicians knowing, this doesn't happen on its own. So So we have all kind of issues where we have them now can't, the attendants, they said they can't check in. A lot of that is true, especially in some rural areas, bandwidth, that kind of stuff. However, we have caught many situations, many homes where there are 2 and 3 children. Everybody else checked in. They're in your same house. Why are you not checking in? And so when we brought that to the parents' point of view, have you checked your other children? Because they were all owned. And both of them were in the same class. We had a group that was in the same room. Interesting, one was on, the other one was not. And they were not in the same room ever sharing. So it wasn't a matter of sharing, but if I couldn't get on, I believe I'd go to my siblings' computer, since we had the same teacher, we're getting the same lesson, at least got something, and told her, communicated back, I can't get on for whatever reason. But that's here to y'all. But those are the stories. We've seen it all. Some of it was issues of not knowing what to do. But as we learned the different things, and particularly at the workshop, new things came on board, and hearing from a group of people who were not emotionally tied to us, who have been working in another school district. Well, we agree what they did or how they did it or what they did. They impressed me that we've seen this, we did this, they bought into it. We had their 100 playbook, the original thing. We've had it from day one. So it's not that we weren't behind. We did it. But see, we heard they had a second 100-page clarifying things that they stated that now they changed their mind. They had new ventures they went into. We didn't have that. To get it, we have to work with them. So that was the reason we got involved. After Miss Wimberly gave us the tip of the folks, we were able to reach them, and then we were very convinced with how they looked at this as they visit the schools. We saw the merit of that. And again, outside people looking that don't have, the dog in the fight as far as we're concerned. They're going to be honest and open, and they can compare it back to a local district. What are they doing that might be different from us? Now, we did hear back from a lot of principals. I haven't heard any concerns. I'm sure I'll see it in the report. But many of them said they were complimented by the team coming through, that they were impressed with a lot of the things they saw and how far along we were. So I'm not anticipating a lot of bad things, but I am anticipating something that's going to be a curveball. And we want to deal with it. Like I said, we had the CARES money. If at all possible, if they say it might work and help us with our numbers issue to make things safer, I certainly want to do it. So with all that said, it's a great, this has been a decision that probably should have been made earlier. For whatever reason, we've erred on the side of safety, and I will probably always do that. But like I say, I'm now very concerned that we're ending a third 9 weeks, 1 last year and 2 this year, and we're only a month away from 1 year of no school. That's nobody's fault. We've had e-learning, we've had the hybrid, and I know we've had a lot of negativity on the hybrid. It was significantly improved over the e-learning, trust me. If nothing else, the high school and middle school kids got to see the teacher 2 days a week, and the elementary were seeing them every day, even though it was a shortened day. So the contact with teachers and students was worth it. That part is what's greatly missing, and we need more of it. But we need to bring back some other socialization when we can, and because that's why kids want to come to school, and that's like in the high school arena, that's the way of life for them. Their social life is just as important, trust me, as algebra and German and whatever else they're taking. So we want to respect that, as we've all been high school students, and we do know the importance of that. But with that said, if we'll go to the first screen, we realized looking at our plan that what we didn't have back in July was our current district dashboard. We didn't have that. And we really got it going really good just around Thanksgiving, and that's when we had the predictions of all the Thanksgiving holidays and Christmas, and that's when we, started changing the way we did things to protect our folks. However, we lost, the Christmas break, of course, there was no data. And then the 2 weeks, 3 weeks we're back at e-learning, the parents and the students don't feel a need to tell us they're out because they're not here. Now, you'd think they would, but we don't know that they're out for COVID reasons. They might even be telling us, because they're already quarantining in their home. Why would they tell us? They don't have to. And we don't have to do any contact tracing with them, so because they're not in school. So we know those numbers are very skewed. And that's the reason why people would like to have some transition, all of our staff, because we have got to get some data, 1 or 2 weeks worth of data to be able to, if we're going to really rely on this, we want to see what kind of effects do we have legitimately, because they either are there or they're not there. And we know, and after, certainly, we don't need to go any more than 2 weeks. That's enough to give us the data to say, you know, we're still, even though we're peaked to the all-time high of community, we're still holding our own in-house under these conditions. So as we move forth to face-to-face, even though it's going to be increasing the risk, we have reason to believe that our children are safer at school than they are at home. And that's sort of what we're hearing in the studies, and we're buying into that. So we want to closely monitor this, but we're also going to look at all of our data. But we weren't using this piece. Instead, we were using the local DHEC data, which we're still going to use, but it's showing what's happening in our community with lots of adults. Students really aren't affecting it, showing up in those numbers. So we want to make a, you know, we want to know what our community is seeing so we can kind of prepare for the bomb that might be out there. But at the same time, we want to be respectful of the fact that if we're not seeing it, then we don't need to react to it so much. We need to continue trying to plow on and get the academic side increased. So that's what started this. And as we've been looking at the data, board members have asked, why don't we put more onto this? Then when we heard the medical folks the other day, we realized that it's not a matter of who wrote something in the newspaper or whatever, or just one study. Cumulatively, it looks pretty strong. And the fact that Charleston County Superintendent has shared with me that she was pleased with the work they've done. They're not perfect, but they are well-intentioned and right now are offering a service no one else is. For whatever reason people want to say, they think it's a sales pitch, or that's their decision. To me, I see it as an outreach that we have something you might can use. And I'm frankly desperate for any and everything I can put my hands on. So we're going to look, monitor that data, and work build a real close relationship with MUSC to help monitor what we're doing so we have an outside, unbiased source giving us some direction. And that contract with them is very cheap, trust me. Paid for again with CARES money, but it's part of our philosophy. We're not just throwing money away. We're trying to do everything we can to justify why we're back in school or why we're not back in school. And so we're just expanding our horizons, and with that, it's going to call for a change in the plan because we didn't have this then. So we wanted to use the local data, the dashboard I just talked about, seeing the students that are positive, the staff that's positive, who's quarantined, those kind of numbers will tell us. And we get this daily. We get the information daily so we can monitor whether a class needs, and we would. If it gets high, a class will be quarantined, and they will go to e-learning for emergency learning. That's a given, and we have to do that. If a whole grade level, it could be a grade level. If it's a whole school, it's the whole school, but it will not be the whole district. We will deal with the problem where it is best we can and make sure we cover that. So that's sort of what we're trying to do with this plan. We're going to still use all our cohort data, DHEC, the ranges, low, medium, high. I'm going to make a statement that I probably have made before, and I know I have to my staff, and I don't want people to think I'm doing it because I'm just being negative. There ain't going to be no low. So we waiting on low. We're going to be here next, what is the day, the 25th? What's the day? 25th. All right, next February 25th, we could be sitting right here waiting for the low. And then again, what does that tell us? Does that tell us there's some evidence in our community, but how do we know the little bit of people who have it are affecting our families who are coming to the school? That's still something we can't control. Now, when it's high, I think we need to be very aware that it's raging, and it's raging now, so we have to be mindful of that. And so that's what's been so hard. We were ready to change in October when this thing went up. We were ready. And I can't tell you how many times I kicked myself. But the plan said low. We were at medium. So we weren't at low. We were sticking to the plan. That's what everybody wanted, and the board again kept reaffirming, we still believe in this plan, and we trust that you're making it work. But times have changed, and we're having to really refocus. Not for any particular reason. I don't want to play Solomon. I don't want to pit my teachers. I know one night, Mr. Hall, you asked me, if this is between, I think you said that, because I don't think I answered it the way I did if you said students. I believe you said, so you're going to choose what your teachers want over the parents. And I said, absolutely, yes, sir, because without the teachers, we wouldn't have no education. But then I had to put the other person in the equation. The loser in this is not the parent. You're inconvenienced, you're concerned, you're frustrated. Your child is the one that's affected, no matter what decision we make. So I have to go back to the children. And I have to hope that parents are going to help us monitor this, work with this, and play their part to the best of their ability. And most of our parents have done a miraculous job of trying to work with us. They've told me they're upset, this decision stinks, but nobody has threatened to kill me at this point. So I'm trying to get out front on this so I don't have that happen. But we also look at the zip code data just to prove the point that I think locally the highest rates are right here in Somerville. They're not in St. George or Ridgeville. We have the high numbers. So I want people to see that we can't just look at the Dorchester data. We have to pinpoint it down real narrow. All right? Then we have to monitor the substitutes. At any given point in time when we have enough teachers out, we have no subs. We've got a problem, y'all. What are we going to do to teach these children? We certainly can't combine classes, not now. Not when I've got 30 in the room or 25 in the room. We can't have 50 all of a sudden. But we're working on a plan, particularly at the high school in the middle. They're wonderful how they've worked with their faculties and staff, and we're doing some creative things, and we're trying to plan to do those things. So I'm feeling real good about that, and I'm going to be right in the middle of it, giving them whatever support they need to make it happen, only for the rest of this year or early next fall if we need it. I'm calling this COVID time. And I'm making decisions now that I may not make in the future. So let's don't get too thinking this is going to be the way of life. Right now, we have an emergency situation. We have to do emergency things. And I'm going to do what I need to do to make it happen. We're going to collaborate with our partnerships. We have quite a relationship with DHEC. And I have mixed emotions dealing with them sometimes, but we deal with them on a daily basis and an hour basis. Federal Health now is moving in to help us with our testing piece and with our vaccinations for teachers. And then, of course, MUSC is now a big-time partner of ours, and we're going to benefit from all the groundwork they did in Charleston, and now they're back in Beaufort. And I've shared the information with Georgetown, and they're interested after I shared with the Georgetown superintendent how impressed I was that night of what they were offering and trying to offer. So they're going to be speaking to the Georgetown board, talking about that too. Now, I don't want to spread them too thin because I want to make sure I get my share of what I need ahead of time. But I think there's plenty to go around. I think they're pretty organized. So that's where these are the data points we feel that all need to be there. And a lot of that was not in the original plan. So you see, we're backed off on something, but this is more comprehensive at the end of the day. All right? Next slide. So the instructional model that we're looking at is back to face for all students. That's the model the district is striving to do. We're seeing no e-learnings up there. You see at the bottom that we will do it by class, we'll do it by individual students, grade level, school. That's when we'll kick in because that's what it's for. And we're good at it. Under those circumstances, it's good. But it's not meant to be long-term, a whole semester in that. It's just not good. In the meantime, hybrid is a transition period for us. You get to practice. Kids coming in, they get acclimated. Right now we're getting ready to move hundreds of children from hybrid to virtual and vice versa. But it's going 2 or 3 to 1 back to face. These kids have not seen a teacher and worked with them in school for almost a year. And you're kindergarten and first grade, the kindergarten may have never been in a school, ever. So we feel like they need that transition time. I don't want to add another layer. I'm very much against having unnecessary stuff just to say we did it. It's not because of a plan. It truly is. My principals all convinced me today we need a transition period. I need to try those buses for a couple of days so I can work out putting morning and afternoon together the first week, and if the numbers aren't right, it's the second week to straighten it up before we start bringing them all in. And I would like maybe some time, a week or two between the levels. Like right now, elementary is a little bit bigger than middle and secondary together, high school. So I would like to have maybe 2 transition times. Elementary, we thought about elementary and middle, but they're so different, I think, and they back up to each other on the buses. I think that could cause us a great problem and bring on more stuff. We don't want to burden any more parents and frustrations. We've got enough of that. We're trying to make this smooth. So probably elementary, then middle and high school would be together. All of them soon. I've told you I've used, high school is still always indefinite because we have too many issues we're working on. I'm feeling better about it. My principals assured me today, Mr. Pye, it won't be perfect. We will be ready. And so we decided, let's see, here's the metrics we're going to look at. The same on both. We're going to look at the dashboard data trends, the medical advice, the advisories, studies, DHEC data trends, whatever we have will determine when it's time to do that. And right now, that data is favorable. We heard what the medical people said. We're reading the studies. The DHEC trends aren't changed. One of them went down to medium last week. Now, it might go to super high this week. But it's based on numbers of people being tested. Y'all, they test the people on every street corner in town, and are they giving money away for people if you will be tested? So I know the testing numbers have to be high because it's the thing to do. And many people being tested over and over and over again. To go on trips, I want to be tested before I go. Now I'm going to be tested when I come back to see if I got it on the trip. Well, I don't believe I'd taken the trip if I was worried about, I'd want to be safe leaving, especially if I'm around elderly folks and stuff. But coming back, you took the risk to go. And so if you find out that you're positive, as I did, my poor doctor was beat up on the phone. I have a great relationship with him. I was not nice. I said, I'm in no mood for jokes. This is a serious matter, and I don't appreciate your teasing me. And he said, Mr. Pye, you and I have a good relationship, and we have a good sense of humor, both of us. I would never do that. You're positive. I said, that just can't be true. It's just not. I don't feel that bad. Well, I'm worried about you might. And sure enough, the might came to pass. So I know it's a serious thing. I've been touched by it, and those days that I lay there in the bed not knowing if I can breathe the next morning, I had a wake-up call. We're doing the right thing, and I'm protecting everybody. But then I come back to the situation, and we're not about school. I spent every minute of my time as superintendent, hours upon hours, playing the game of, are we milking this for the best we can? What is the right thing to do? I need to be proactive planning. It's time to start planning for next year. I can't wait to August to say, okay, what are we going to do in algebra? What are we going to do? We need to make those decisions now. And there are lots of decisions. We're getting ready to hire people. Our teachers they'll be telling us soon if they're coming back or not coming back. And these decisions may affect that. But I need to know that so I know how to recruit. Yes, we have not done as well as maybe our neighbors in some areas. But trust me, we get dozens of calls each week or month from neighboring districts. The teachers want to come to Dorchester too. Now after this, they may not. Like I say, I may go on the other end. But that's fickle, and I just can't judge that. That's all an emotional decision for them. So flip to the next slide. So what we're suggesting is our recommendation is that we do the hybrid starting next week. That's on Tuesday, I believe, because teacher work day is Monday. Hybrid 2 through 12. Full elementary on the 15th. Hybrid for middle and high school would continue. So they're all doing on that one. They continue. That's February the 22nd, full face-to-face for all middle and high schools, the entire district. That is what the principals, I talked to 25 principals, and I had one that said, if you said February the 2nd, which is next Monday, I can be ready. One. No other ones said, they all said, we cannot, we don't feel comfortable. Then they started worrying about the buses and all the other issues. Then we talked about the 9th. I think if we said that, our principals would do it. But they all were reluctant, that they just scared we'll be so unorganized that one more week might make a big difference to parents in the end of the day. I just didn't want to pull people into hybrid if they didn't have to. But none of the principals wanted to stay in e-learning another week. So they got to be in something. So if we go one extra week, what they're going to be in? We think the transition of them coming back half class gives us a chance to put the two halves together and the teachers have some kind of sense of where they're going. So that was our thinking, and like I said, it was pretty unanimous, and I was a hard sell. Like I said, my people are very good about being team players. At the end of the day, we'll do whatever you tell us. You're the boss, and I don't like playing that role when they've already shared with me. I asked for their input. We did not vote. I'm past the vote now because if I don't like the vote, what am I supposed to do? I told you to vote, and I got to go with the majority. So I've learned a long time ago I just want input, and at the end of the day, I'll decide what input might be stronger than the other, and people just have to accept all my years of experience of doing it right and wrong. I've been burned enough that I hope I'm doing right. So that's what we're suggesting that we do, and that's, remember the last two board meetings, the last board meeting and the workshop, I think we used the February 15th date was sort of our target date. As you can see, we're still on target. We just looked at one extra week because the high school's in the middle. I've got to get this information back from MUSC. I have not seen it. I don't know what that entails about ordering anything or putting up some last minute, changing the plexiglass around. You got to have a little bit of transition time. The buses are still a concern. Food service is no longer a concern of mine. Now, whether we we are going to serve hot lunches, not will we. We're going to serve hot lunches, but whether the kids go to the lunchroom to eat or their lunches are taken to their class, that's still a discussion. Because as you heard the MUSC folks said, that we need to reduce the transitions as much as possible. And we can't do that in high school. We just can't handle that. But the elementary, because they're with the same teacher, most of them all day long, we can take the stuff to their classes and work out a schedule for recess and other things where they're isolated. We may have 15 spots throughout the yard where the kids go out with their teacher and they have it's just some time to run and do their thing. And so we're working. Those are the things we're working on. We just had to get this to you tonight. We think it's time. Like I said, nothing's etched in stone, but after much conversation, I knew everybody wanted it yesterday. And we still have that, I'm sure. I already know some board members have expressed they'd like it sooner than later, and so would I. I just felt like after what I heard today, I had at least, for the sake of that, throw that out as that's based on everybody coming together at the school level. And if the board would like that to be up a week, I'm open to suggestions. But we feel like that I was just trying to meet the needs of everybody. So is that it? So discussion. First of all, I need you to accept the plan, and then we can talk about other stuff.
Yeah, if we could put the plan back up there.
And that's one simple plan.
Okay, so, board members, I need a motion to approve the amended plan. Motion made by Mr. Farnsworth, seconded by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion on that?
You don't think we're not going to have any discussion on that, right?
Is there going to be another discussion?
Yes, on the second part.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Okay,
Hold on just a
yeah,
minute. This
either
is
way,
on the
it's the
plan.
same discussion.
This is the plan, yeah.
That's fine. Well, I can wait.
Oh, you're going to wait, okay. Okay, does anybody have any discussion on the plan? No discussion on the plan, okay. So I need, all in favor of the plan, amended plan? Okay, there's 6 opposed to the plan. 1 opposed. Okay, now, Mr. Pye presented,
You will when we get to this. you
Yeah, when
can.
we get to this part, you can. Mr. Pye made a recommendation. As everybody knows, this, like I said, spoke earlier, this is Mr. Pye's recommendation. He is the person that handles all of the day-to-day operations, so this is not something that the board votes on. This is his recommendation, and we follow his recommendation because that's in his job description, that is his job title to run the operations of the day-to-days. So, but we can have discussion on that, if anybody has anything they would like to discuss about that.
And one quick thing, even on, as I mentioned, February 8th for the elementary up, the high schools in the middle are willing to do the 15th. We just felt like to do what we need to do for elementary, we could not do all 3 levels at the same time. I think it would be awful, chaotic. So that's what we try to give the separation without taking it into March. I was opposed to that. So we said February, and we mean February is February.
Okay, Mr. Farnsworth?
Sure, I'll kick it off. Yeah, it's interesting because I think if you look back, I guess it was probably March or April of last year when we started this whole conversation, and the discussion is really the same. I mean, there's no right answer. I think, Mr. Brocker, you hit it right on the head. There's never been a good answer. There's never been a silver bullet, because what happens is, I want you to understand, again, from our perspective, what's really, it's an impossible situation because on one hand, you've got folks that see it this way, and then on the very next second, you've got folks that see it this way. You've got data that says this, you've got data that says that. And so again, for every 5 emails we get that say go back, you get 5 emails that say don't go back. And so being in our seats, I just want folks to understand why you see kind of that pull one way or another. I think that the theme, though, again, if you went back to those very first meetings and you rewound and looked at those meetings, we all said the same thing, right? We all said we have to get back face to face as soon as we can, but I think the difference being the caveat, what I've always stood by is I wanted it to come from Mr. Pye. I've always wanted it to come from Mr. Pye and the district because, again, that buy-in is really, I don't think folks understand how important that buy-in is. Again, Mr. Hall, Philip, I get it. We're veterans. Ms. Brocker, we're veterans. We get it. When they say jump, we say how high. I wish it were that easy. I really do. That's the world we're used to. And unfortunately, in here, it's just not quite that easy. So again, I don't know that any of us wanted to be here a year later. It's just not an easy place to be. And so to satisfy all these different folks and viewpoints and angles is impossible. But again, I wanted it to come from Mr. Pye and his team. I wanted that buy-in. I wanted principals to look at it because they're in it. They're in it day to day. They understand the logistics of it. Their stuff, listen, and what folks don't realize, Mr. Pye and I talked about this, I think it was either today or the other day. What folks don't realize is a very seemingly benign question from a board member, from a community member, turns into this whirlwind. And I know folks don't understand that, but it turns into a whirlwind at the school level. I live with it. I live with an educator. And so I see firsthand, I see how and again, it's a good question. It's a benign question. But then it turns into, we're doing work at 11 o'clock and midnight trying to get all this data to appease this question. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but again, those are things that I want folks to realize and understand the ramifications, the day-to-day stuff, the logistics of what has to go into these decisions is why I needed it to come from the district. The recommendation has to come from the district because there is no way for me as a board member to be able to say, this is what you will do, make it happen. It's not possible, right? So that's my piece. Thank you, Mr. Pye, again. I get blamed all the time. You love Mr. Pye, you love the district. Yes, I do. I'm not ashamed of that. They've gotten us to where we are. Mr. Pye's done it for 51 years. It's an impossible situation. So again, I just want to say thank you for what you have brought to the table. You've put some wheels in motion. You're moving us forward. That's all we can ask for. And so again, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing. I know when we put this into place, and for Mr. Pye and for our principals and our administrators, when this goes into place, I have no doubt that it will be done as safely and healthy and as humanly possible that they can do it, because they're bringing it to us, and I know they can make that happen. So again, I just say thank you, and I'm not ashamed to say thank you 1,000 times. I'll take all the heat in the world for that.
Ms. Crosby?
Okay. I want to point out a couple of things first before I get into that. Mr. Pye mentioned the word respect. We have all had our differences, like he said, but some people have written some nasty grams, like he said. There is no question of respect on this board for each other. We differ in opinions. That's okay. When we walk out of this boardroom, we're still friends. Am I correct? Huh? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, whoever's coming up with those nice emails that say we don't have any respect, that's not true. Another thing is, I am the only public school teacher sitting here. And I have a third grade grandchild at home that I see every day. He never was a crier, but he, like you said about your daughter, he cries. He hates school. And I'm going to tell you what I won't have is I won't have him hating me because of this e-learning. And I hate to sit there and scold him, discipline him, when I see what all the other kids on that screen are doing. It's not fair. Like we said, there's really nobody to blame, but something has to be done. And Mr. Pye, I appreciate what you've put forth here, that you have moved forward. One other thing I'd like to say is, last year at least our kids were in school for 7 months. This year they haven't been in school at all, basically. And we only have 4 months left. What kind of an education are they going to even get in 4 months? And somebody sent another nasty grams about saying things that we don't support teachers. We support teachers 100%. I was one. I support you. I don't have to agree with you, but I support you. Our kids, even Mr. Pye made the comment if we wanted to move up a week, that was be all right with him. Our kids have been out for so long. A week is making a big difference. A week in time is making a big difference. And I was hoping, because we talked about it, like I said, we talk about these things. It's not like things are brought to you out of the blue. But I would wish that would be a consideration, that we could move it up a week for children. Florida is the third highest hot spot in the country. My daughter is an NP in Florida. They haven't missed any school. And I know we've heard about Berkeley and Charleston or whatever. And she's seen very few any cases. And if they were older teens or whatever. Of course, she's not the only person down there. But I've always been a member. I told you this in my campaign, that I'm one that can reach a consensus with this board because I respect them and their decision, and I respect Mr. Pye and his decision. I also want you to realize that between Ashley and Evan and I, we had over 60,000 constituents vote on us because they trusted us. I've been on here for 12 years. They're relatively new. And they know where I'm coming from. They know what I care about. Everybody's turned coat because of COVID. Is that fair? Is that really fair? Because you want to look at what's happened in a few months to say, oh, this person doesn't care, this person doesn't do da-da-da-da-da-da. Not fair. But I got big shoulders. And I will stand up for these children. I could be home with my feet up, retired. I'm here because of children and because of my love for children and what I care about children.
My children came through Somerville High School, and my grandchildren did, and now I got a great-grand in there. And I feel the same way about this district. I retired from Berkeley, and I still think that Dorchester is a wonderful district. I want my constituents to know that I thank you and I appreciate you having that faith in me. I feel like that I'm doing what's best since I was in the classroom. I know what it was like. I went through Hugo, and we didn't have any time to prepare. We went right back the next day and started teaching. That's what you do. And they got a work day on Monday, but get the work day on Monday. That's what teachers do, is they teach. Go back and teach. But, like I said, whatever this board decides, I will reach a consensus, because, Mr. Pye, I know that you've got more input. You've probably forgotten more about education than I'll ever know. And I do respect that.
I'm older than you, so I know.
Yeah, he is a little older than me. Thank y'all very much. But anyway, just please know that whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks, I will be in consensus with this board to do that. But I fought for this for a long time, and I know Mr. Pye has wanted it for a long time. It's not that he hasn't. And he feels like this is the right time, and I support that.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby. Anyone else? Brian, did you want to say something? I'm sorry that Brian wanted to say anything. That's why I went on. Wait a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to echo the sentiments of Mr. Farnsworth and some of what Barbara said. I appreciate and applaud the district and the leadership and Mr. Pye and the administrators who came together to figure out a way to get our kids back in school. As I've said the whole time, I support Mr. Pye and I support the administrators, and this district knows better than any board member or board members. And so with that being said, the plan that has been presented and the assurances that we've received, we're going to be getting a lot more information than what we originally thought out back in, March or April or May, or actually June when we put this plan together. We do have to be flexible, and I know it looked like for a long time we were inflexible, but at the same time, I believe now, more than ever, are doing the right thing, and I applaud those folks that have worked really hard on this, and I support the recommendation from Mr. Pye and his staff, and I appreciate their time and their effort, and hearing listening to everybody's emails, reading everybody's emails. Some people are very, very succinct in their emails, and some people are not, and that's fine. Each person communicates differently, and I just want you to know that, we do read those emails, and we do take that information and consider everything that we can to try to make this situation better for our students and better for everybody that is involved with DD2. There's a lot of talk about, Charleston County and Berkeley County, Charleston County and Berkeley County. Well, those of you that have been listening to us for a long time, other than just the last 9 months, know that the financial challenges that we have don't allow us to have these, multi-classroom, big, huge buildings that have a class. We operate our classes out of closets. They operate their classes out of 30 by 40 rooms, I think I heard somebody say. There's a big difference when you've got more room to make it more socially distanced. And that, I think, has always been one of the challenges. Everybody says, well, why can't we be like them? Well, I take offense to that. I don't really want to be like Charleston and Berkeley County. I think Dorchester District 2 stands out because we are Dorchester District 2. We're not little brother, all right? So thank you, Mr. Pye, for making sure that we stay Dorchester District 2 and we do what is best for our district.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchum. Ms. Robinson?
Well, I don't certainly have a speech prepared because I wasn't sure exactly what Mr. Pye was going to present for us to amend this evening. I do think, though, as Mr. Bryan was talking about, we have received a lot of emails, and a lot of times I have to do in my mind what Mr. Pye said and realize these are parents or teachers, and they don't hate us. They say they do. I mean, we've been told when you go to pearly gates, I hope you can look at St. Peter and say, I killed kids, I'm sorry. Those are the kind of things that's not the way Somerville's ever been, not the way our district's ever been. But what it let me know is people are very emotional because it deals with their health and it deals with their most precious thing in the world, their children. I have wanted to go back to school, but I don't want a teacher to die. And there is no magic bullet. Everybody's already said what I feel. You all really, listening out there, don't know us very well. I mean, I could tell you a little bit about me. I have served for over 4 decades, either as a teacher, a parent volunteer. I've worked in the district office. I was a state PTA president, and now on the school board. So I think I don't want my 6 months to these 6 months to define what I've done for the children and the parents and the teachers of this community, because this 6 months, none of us can define anything that has to do with what we really are. It's a shame that we've become this way. I hope that after tonight, we'll all kind of calm down and we'll realize we're in it together, and we might not agree with everything. Talked to Mr. Pye today, and there's things on here I'm so happy about and things I wish were just a little bit different, but I respect. And again, we do not micromanage Mr. Pye. These emails that come to us, why aren't you board members doing it? Because as Mr. Farnsworth said, that would not be our place. We're not Charleston County, and we're not going to dictate to the superintendent what he better do and hold over his head if he doesn't. That's not the way we've ever worked. And finally, today, Mr. Pye said something that I thought came from his heart, and I believe him. He said, Ms. Robinson, my teachers love me. And I believe that. And teachers out there, you need to follow him if you love him, and that's what he feels at this point now. Everybody needs to put aside whichever way they've been thinking, and they need to respect and follow the superintendent they say they love. And we want you to know, as a board, we love him. And even though we may not always agree with each other, we all have a very strong relationship, and we trust each other on this board. Whether it's Evan, that I say when E.F. Hutton talks, everybody listens, or, you know, Miss Crosby, who has a lot of ideas. When we leave here, we care about each other. So with that in mind, I hope that tonight starts a new phase, not only with this, but with our actions, our emotions, and with the way we treat each other, because that's not the way we are. We're better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Mr. Guthrie?
Right. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Pye and all the administrators for all the work and tireless, tremendous effort that you put into amending this plan and making sure we're able to move forward. It's been a difficult last 10 months, and I just want to say thank you for everybody out there, parents, teachers, all the students, for all your patience that we've been dealing with this process. And I'm just happy that we were able to get to this point where we can look at the data and make a sound plan, make an amendment to this plan moving forward that I truly believe puts safety first, but also puts students first. And I think that nobody's going to be 100% happy with this plan, and that's okay. I mean, I think that that's something that we as board members have to make the difficult decision to support a plan that puts students first, and I believe that's what we've done tonight. So I just want to say thank you very much, and let's move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. And now Ms. Wimberly.
And I will echo the sentiments of, I think, my fellow board members when I say thank you to Mr. Pye and to his team and to
the leaders in this district, the educators in this district, and every single person who works in this district. Thank you for working tirelessly to help us look at every possibility, which is, I think, what all of us have wanted from the start. You know, we have to ask questions. I thank you for your patience with my questions. I know sometimes you may think, how can she ask that? How does she not know that? But again, that to me, that's our responsibility, is to ask these questions and to look for solutions, even when the solutions are not easy to find. And I certainly know this has been a difficult path. I am the newest member to this board, so I have not been in it since the beginning. But I certainly saw right away when I stepped into this role that, as everyone has said, there is not an easy solution. And it became very clear to me that that's the case, and that, no matter what we decide, there will be people who are unhappy with us. But I am proud of the fact that we have continued to ask questions. We have adjusted and monitored based on new information and new data and sound data, and I think that's important. And we are behaving responsibly. We are going to continue monitoring data. We have support to help us, and although, of course, we have seen that our district has done an excellent job thus far, but I think we're moving into a new phase now, and with that comes added responsibility, but I think we all feel good about having the support. So I feel great about this new plan. I'm looking forward to it. I think it definitely does put our children first, which is what we all want. It gets our children back into school for full-time face-to-face learning, which is what we have all agreed from the beginning they need, and we are doing it with safety as our priority in the top thing. And what I love that I'm hearing tonight is that can-do attitude that I have always loved and respected about this district and our leadership. We are going to make it work. We are going to bring our students back, and we are going to do it safely. And I am proud to be a part of that. And so I applaud you, Mr. Pye, and I thank everyone who has helped in this effort. And I'm excited about moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Wimberly. And I would like to echo every board member on this board that has spoken. Everybody is, I think we've all had the same thing that we wanted to happen. We all wanted the same end result. Getting there was the tough part, and I think this is probably, I've been on the board, this is my 4th term on the board, so I've been on the board 15 years now, and this is the toughest thing that we have ever had to face, because this affected so many people. It affected the community, it affected our teachers, it affected most of all our students. So coming to a conclusion on how to remedy this has been so tough, and it's taken so many people putting their heads together and trying to come up with what was the best way to do it, how could we do it safely, and how could we protect the most people in our district, and also consider the people who are outside of our district, their families. And Mr. Pye said it best, we have to look out for our students first, but we also have to look out for our teachers, because ultimately we're here to educate kids, and without our teachers we cannot educate our children. So we're still a failure if we're not able to do that. So that being said, Mr. Pye, you and your team have yet again put together a great, what I feel is a compromise for everyone involved, and I think that our students and our teachers are going to be winners because of what you've done and all the research that you've done. So thank you and your staff for everything that you've done, and for listening to us every time we gave you a call and said, well, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that? Because some of those things are showing up in these plans, and we appreciate that. So that makes us know that we are a team, and we are working together, and together we did come up with this. So I appreciate all of that, and thank you for getting our kids back into school sooner than later. We really appreciate that. On that same note, we talked at the workshop that we were wanting to discuss about the vaccines for our teachers. And we kind of just briefly talked about supporting maybe a letter that we would send to Governor McMaster about seeing if we could expedite those vaccines so that our teachers could possibly be bumped up on the list to try to get those vaccines here quicker. So there again, that's a part of that safety piece that we want to make sure that if we can do that, if we have any input in that, that we do every little bit we can with that. Ms. Wimberly has so graciously drafted a letter, and she sent that over to me. What I would like to do again is get the okay from the board to maybe sit down with Ms. Rayner, have Ms. Wimberly and myself sit down with Ms. Rayner and try to critique this and get it all in a form. Maybe, I don't know if you want to do resolution, what you want to do with this, but get this, I would think, in a resolution form, because this is something that we really want him to react on as opposed to just a personal letter like we're doing with our delegation. So maybe a resolution form, and Ms. Rayner is so good at writing those resolutions, and maybe we could put this information that we have that Ms. Wimberly wrote up. We'll send it over to you guys and let you look at it, critique it, and then get that off to the governor as soon as we can get that off. So, and that again is something that I'm going to need a motion for. So do I have anybody that's willing to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Robinson made the motion, seconded by Ms. Wimberly. Any discussion on that?
The only thing to think about, because we're not going to meet again for 2 weeks, so I just don't know if it makes sense. I'm perfectly okay with doing the letter, I think, from you as the chair. I think could make sense. That way we don't have to wait 2 weeks to get a resolution and all that stuff. Because I do think they need to hear about it sooner than later. And I don't know, maybe I can ask Ms. Santa Maria, we're in 1A still currently? And then teachers are scheduled for 1B. So what's the definition? Like, how do we know when they go from 1A to 1B? Is it when all the vaccines from 1A have been exhausted?
So it really is a matter of supply availability. So they're opening 1A up to more individuals right now, and then I think what will probably happen is they will just transition to 1B and open it up just like they did. It initially was just for healthcare workers and residents of care facilities, then they opened it up to those 70 and older. I think they'll transition to 1B and start phasing in those who are in 1B once availability.
Got it. So our goal would be to maybe put teachers into 1A.
1A, to bump them up into 1A.
Yep.
Or first and 1B.
Or the first on the list.
That played into our decision here. We really wanted to try to stay our course to get the teachers vaccinated. Y'all, this is a moving target. I don't see it happening. I hate that, teachers, that I'm here negative, but everything coming out of Columbia and Washington is so confusing. We don't have enough to go around. Our new president's got the 100-day plan. We'll add up how many doses he thinks he's going to give out in 100 days. Well, 100 days is May, and we'll be lucky. We'll probably maybe in the middle. I'm just concerned that come next August, that we start school with our teachers vaccinated, because of that 3-week period between the shots is really bothering me. And a lot of people that I've been talking to are getting appointments right away within a week or two. I'm beginning to hear some others who are being told a month from now. So it is getting, once they open it up, every category is fighting to get into 1B, like we are to try to get into 1A, and they keep adding people to 1A, which I look for them to drop the age limit one more time, probably before they leave 1A, to get more folks that are up there, and the conditions that you may have that could cause you a problem. So maybe even down to that you are taking care of elderly people or whatever, and they refuse to take the shot, then you need to have it since you're the caregiver. I look for all those kinds of things are being lobbied by different groups, and I'm just worried that we will get it, but this stuff, if you're going to have it in spring, I'm just not as hopeful.
And so I'm not trying to make that any more difficult than, I just don't want to wait 2 weeks. So I'm perfectly
you're right.
comfortable giving you permission as chair, if everybody else is. I don't know if we can amend that motion to just create that letter, strongly worded letter, and then send it off rather than waiting 2 weeks for a resolution.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so I need a second, I need a second on that amendment, so that the resolution has to come back for signatures, because everybody has to sign the resolution. So it would have to be signed by each board member.
I just have a question. Could we do both, or would that be, there would be no point to that? Just out of curiosity, could we do both? Could we send the letter ahead, but then also do the resolution as well?
We could do both. There would be nothing wrong with doing both, and we could just get the resolution signed at the next board meeting. We could do that as well.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's a very strong advocate for it, actually. So that's like, here it is, read it, well, here it is again, now read it again.
I like that.
So, yeah, I do too.
That consent to the press that we did do the resolution, and maybe our neighboring districts that we've not already done it will join us, and everybody would be the better for it.
Yes, and, we probably could get our neighboring districts to join in.
I think if they see us in the paper having done this, they will be
Yes.
doing it the next day.
Absolutely. Okay, all right. So I have a motion and a second for that. Any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank y'all very much. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is public comments. These are public comments that.
Ms. Crosby.
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Hughes, I know that several of us talked about possibly moving the elementary up a week, and everybody has their own opinion. I don't know how anybody was going to vote, but that was a recommendation I was going to ask for before you took the vote, to just see if there was, how much interest there was in going ahead and moving those elementary kids up a week to keep them from being further behind. But the vote's been taken, so I
Send me a
guess
vote.
it's,
Okay. Yeah.
Well, if you have a
We can't-
strong desire, always express that to me. Like I said, it's not etched, it is tonight because we got to tell the public. And once it's announced, I promise you, I'm not changing anything unless I'm made to do it. And you'll see me behind bars as being forced to do it, because it just makes us look bad, wishy-washy around, because parents have babysitters, they have job problems, situations, their whole lives have been uprooted. And if they go and change it and we start messing with them, we have a problem. I am concerned not only about all the things I mentioned, but our teachers, to do the lesson plans, to get back face-to-face is a total different ballgame, because I'm going to ask our folks, even though we have the technology, I'm tired of it. So the technology needs to be used as a secondary supplemental. I want good old direct teaching, and I want the things we were famous for in our district before we had all these tools. And they're good. I'm glad we have them. It's going to make our jobs easier and maybe more complete. But so many children have had such a terrible experience that I'm real cautious about doing that, especially with our real young kids. I have an issue in special needs children and any of these transitional grades like 6th grade, 9th grade. Just being in the school at that age is traumatic enough. They don't need anything else we add to them. So those are just my concerns, but that's why I think we erred on that side in the end. But we were really leaning towards a week earlier. But the hybrid would then be 1 week, and we were questioning, would we make a change for just 1 week? It would help us. And then the mayor mentioned that, no, we would stay in e-learning another week. It's not acceptable to me. I said no. So
So, Mr. Pye, you're saying you were leaning towards just doing the 1 week? of
we
hybrid?
talked about it, and everybody said they felt the 2 weeks was what we needed. That was pretty good, and they changed my mind because I was leaning there because I felt that was enough. But I was convinced about the buses and everything else that the 2 weeks would give us a chance to make changes, as we saw half the kids at a time. So when we brought them all back, we wouldn't be confused and having so many issues with buses and food and all those things. So it was really, at the end of the day, we said 1 week would not guarantee perfection, but it would certainly lend itself to being better organized. And I just don't want this to be another thing people hold over our head is that you did it and we told you you weren't ready, and you've had, a year to plan, so why is this not organized? Well, because there are things like we just moved 2,600 children, and we're just doing it this week, and so we're not going to be able to be ready for a while. I mean, February the 2nd, the high schools will make the change, but we give kids in high school 10 days to change their schedule, and so that would be that period of time. It's just a transitional. We can't do them all at one time. That was another thing. Just do it and let's move on. But we had to back up, and so this was what we finally hashed out. We got rid of the 30th, but all of the principals agreed that if we had to move it up a week, they would work with me. Their words were, "Boss, you know we'll make it happen." And I know they will. But if we had our druthers, you're asking us, we think we could do a lot more and be safer and more organized if we had that week. So that came from them. That's why you had sort of a change from me.
And Mr. Pye, I respect them saying that, that they're willing to work with you and doing that. Because, like I said, I know high schools could take a little bit longer, and middle school, y'all have got more logistics.
Right.
But those elementary are our foundation. And if we could just move those up 1 week, it would be, a week's a lot. I mean, especially when it's been this many months. But then there again, that's your decision.
Well, you have to tell the people tonight.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public comments. And I have Madison Esther.
We're doing what we said.
I thought I saw her get up.
Who is that?
Oh.
Oh, you're calling on the parent.
Okay.
Bedtime.
We took too long. Okay, and I just wanted to notate that I do have a call-in, a handwritten one, which we do not read those anymore. We kind of changed those guidelines. We do not read them, but I just wanted the parent to know that I do have it, and I will make sure that all board members see it. Miss Nicole Stewart, I will make sure that all the board members see that. So we did receive it. It was passed on to us, and we will read over that. So just so you know. And I think that is all. If no one else has anything for the betterment of the board, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Guthrie, second. Ms. Crosby, all in favor? 7-0. Have a great evening. Thank y'all for coming.